That night we struck Allen Water and followed it down, and coming to the edge of the hill saw the whole Castle of Stirling underfoot as flat as a pancake, with the town and castle on a hill in the midst of it, and the moon shining on the links of Forth. Now, said Allen, I kenna if ye care, but you're in your own land again. We passed the Highland line in the first hour, and now if we could but pass yon crooked water, we might cast our bonnets in the air. So here we are, on the banks of the Forth, Bridge of Stirling. In Allen Water, nearby where it falls into the Forth, we found a little sandy islet overgrown with burdock, butterbur and the like low plants that would just cover us if we lay flat. Well, we didn't do that. Here it was we made our camp, within plain view of Stirling Castle, there, whence we could hear the drums beat as some part of the garrison paraded. Shearers worked all day in a field on one side of the river, and we could hear the stones going on the hooks and the voices and even the words of the men talking. As soon as the shearers quit their work and the dusk began to fall, we waded ashore and struck for the Bridge of Stirling, keeping to the fields and under the field fences. The bridge is close under the castle hill. Yes, it is. An old, high, narrow bridge with pinnacles along the parapet. And you may conceive with how much interest I looked upon it, not only as a place famous in history for the Battle of Stirling Bridge, William Wallace, which we've talked about, but as the very doors of salvation to Allen and myself. The moon was not yet up when we came there. A few lights shone along the front of the fortress, and lower down a few lighted windows in the town. But it was all mighty still, and there seemed to be no guard upon the passage. I was for pushing straight across, but Allen was more wary. "It looks uncommon quiet," said he, "but for all that we'll lie down here cannily behind a dyke and make sure." So we lay for about a quarter of an hour, whilst whispering, whilst lying still and hearing nothing earthly but the washing of the water on the piers. Can you hear them? At last, there came by an old hobbling woman with a crutch stick. You ready to do that, Andy? Who first stopped a little close to where we lay and bemoaned herself and the long way she had travelled, and then set forth again up the steep spring of the bridge. The woman was so little and the night still so dark that we soon lost sight of her and only heard the sound of her steps and her stick and a cough that she had by fits draw slowly further away. This is you, isn't it? She's bound to be across now, I whispered. No, said Allen. Her foot still sounds boss upon the bridge. And just then, who goes there? Cried a voice, and we heard the butt of a musket rattle on the stones. I must suppose the sentry had been sleeping, so that had we tried, we might have passed unseen. But he was awake now, and the chance forfeited. Ah, this'll never do, said Allen. This'll never do for us, David. And without another word, he began to crawl away through the fields, and a little after, being well out of eye-shot, got to his feet again and struck along a road that led to the eastward. I could not conceive what he was doing, and indeed I was so sharply cut by the disappointment that I was little likely to be pleased with anything. Well, said I. Well, said Allen, what would you have? They're none such fools as I take them for. We have still the Forth to pass, Davy. Weary fall the rains that fed, and the hillsides that guided it. And why go east, said I. Oh, just upon the chance, said he. If we cannot pass the river, we'll have to see what we can do for the Firth. But there are fords upon the river and none upon the Firth, said I. To be sure there are fords and a bridge forby, quoth Allen, and of what service when they are watched? Well, said I, but a river can be swum. By them that have the skill of it, returned he. But I have yet to hear that either you or me is much of a hand at that exercise, and for my own part I swim like a stone. You reckon you can get across here?
No.
I'm not up to you in talking back, Allen, I said, but I can see we're making bad worse. If it's hard to pass a river, it stands to reason it must be worse to pass a sea. But there's such a thing as a boat, says Allen, and if I'm more deceived. Aye, and such a thing as money, says I, but for us that have neither one nor other, they might just as well not have been invented. We have trains, though, I hear. You think so, said Allen. I do that, said I. David, says he, you're a man of small invention and less faith. But let me set my wits upon the hone, and if I canna beg, borrow, nor yet steal a boat, I'll make one. Now that's an idea. I think I see ye, said I, and what's more than all that, if you pass a bridge it can tell no tales, but if we pass the Firth and there's a boat on the wrong side,
Somebody must have brought it. The countryside will all be in a biz. Man, cried Alan, if I make a boat, I'll make a body to take it back again. So deave me with no more of your nonsense, but walk. But that's what you've got to do, and let Alan think for ye. Pretty good, huh?
Very good.